People Entertainment, I'm Rachel Smith. Well, the MC for this year's Video Music Awards is none other than Nicki Minaj. Minaj emceed and won MTV's Video Vanguard Award last year. Now she'll return to host and perform once again. She's also nominated for several awards, including Best Hip Hop Video, Best Visual Effects, Video of the Year, and Song of the Summer for Barbie World, and Artist of the Year. Minaj and Lil Wayne will also help the VMAs pay tribute to hip-hop's 50th anniversary with the help of Dougie Fresh, LL Cool J, and others. That sounds like a good show. Well, if you are a Brady Bunch fan and have ever dreamed of living in that iconic Brady house, unfortunately, you just missed your chance. It is officially now completely off the market. Yep, it's been sold. The Brady Bunch house just sold, forget this, $3.2 million, but that's nearly 42% below asking. The exterior of the home was featured, of course, on the hit show, but it's not even how much HGTV paid for the property a couple years ago before investing thousands for a complete remodel. Zillow says the home was meticulously rebuilt and designed to replicate the set from the super hit show from the 1970s. Drew Barrymore's show is causing controversy as it resumed production amid the ongoing strike. Drew explained her decision to return by saying her show would be in compliance by not discussing or promoting any film or TV show covered under the strike. But the WGA says Barrymore's show is covered by its union, and any writing done for the show would be in violation of union rules. Barrymore is not the only one. Both Sherry Shepherd and Jennifer Hudson's shows are set to resume next week along with The Talk. Other shows like The View, Tamron Hall, and Live with Kelly and Mark have already returned to air. More than 11,000 TV and film writers have been on strike since May. And the strikes are making it more difficult for actors and writers to highlight diverse shows and movies, including LGBTQ+ stories. GLAAD has been tracking diversity on screen for years, and our Tracy E. Gilchrist spoke with GLAAD entertainment research analyst Raina Dearwater about the impact of the strikes on the silver screen.
It's very difficult to get stories of LGBTQ+ people, marginalized groups on the air, especially intersections. I can think of just a few TV shows that have done so. Orange is the New Black, Pose, and even something like a Transparent maybe wasn't telling a story as full as could be. So these stories are hard to get on the air because they're not the stories that the mainstream wants to hear or see or tell, by and large. And so would you talk a little bit about how when the studios are and streamers aren't paying residuals to actors, especially queer actors, actors of color, and writers as well, but when those residuals aren't happening the way that they used to, and these marginalized groups have a hard time making a living, that kind of stamps out creativity, and then it's just this kind of snowball effect of how that all trickles down into visibility. And it's a little bit of a convoluted question, but your answer is what's most important.
Yeah, no, I think Orange is the New Black is a great example of what on screen was groundbreaking, but that New Yorker piece that came out a few months ago talked about how a lot of those actors were getting like 3-cent residual checks. And I think like at the end of the day, it's an equal employment issue. Like there's two sides for this. There's the stories we see on screen, and then there's also the fact that so much queer talent, writers, actors, crew members, they are relatively new hires because it wasn't until recently, with some notable exceptions, of course, but like it was recently when there was like this big push for inclusion in terms of hiring practices, like when I believe Frances McDormand said the words inclusion writer at the Oscars and everyone freaked out, but things like that. And then like diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, and also just like in GLAAD's research, like until COVID hit, it was like a constant increase of LGBTQ characters, which was great to see. And that means that more like, and in a lot of cases, and ones that we like, especially those people being hired, like those shows are being written by queer people and queer people are starring in them. But given that they're newer, there's so much less job security. So if a queer person is being staffed just at the staff writer level, they have so much less opportunity for residuals and like to be on set and to learn from their peers. Like those opportunities are dwindling and dwindling. So it's harder for this hypothetical queer writer, who there are many real ones out there, to get their story told, and to make an impact. And it's also just harder to pay their bills. So it's like a representation issue, but also like it's an issue of class. It's an issue of like, if you don't have like a fallback job, like so many queer people, specifically queer people of color, like don't come from money, or like, you know, there can sometimes be contentious relationships with people's families. And so like having a story that to tell is really important, but you need to live, you need to eat. So if you have another job that is more consistent than television writing is, and acting, and like as we've shown, as more information has come to light with these strikes, like it is not a consistent job because the studios aren't making it a livable wage. So that means that this queer talent isn't getting paid enough, and that also means that like the queer art isn't able to reach as many people. And so in terms of like, if there's a long running show that's been on the air for a while and that actor writer has built up, and then they get those benefits, and like that's wonderful. But the reality is that most of those shows are not the shows that feature our stories. And also there's like, it's often like an excuse, like a great example, and by a great example I mean like a good example for this point, but not a great thing that happened, is what happened with Amazon's A League of Their Own. Is that like it went for one season, and then they were like, we're going to cancel it, but you get 4 more episodes. And it's like, not ideal, but sure, we'll take the 4 more episodes. And then Amazon is like, because of the strikes, oopsie, no 4 more episodes. So those are a bunch of queer talent that does not have a job. And then it is also like the studios using the strike as an excuse to end their content that's quote unquote risky, and blaming it on the workers who just want to get paid a fair wage.
Which is wildly craven. Something that actors are incredibly fearful of, and writers, is AI, which is, I mean, especially this idea that they want to use like a day player's or background actor's image in perpetuity. That's wildly gross appropriation of someone's visage. I mean, just it's boundaryless. And I wonder if you would touch on that, especially how that affects marginalized people.
Yeah, I think it's let's throw the word craven back in there again. But yeah, I think it is like they're trying to get humanity without actual humans, and in that there is no humanity, if that made sense. But essentially just like the way that essentially trying to replace workers with robots has been an ongoing struggle in the labor movement for the past century, especially more recently. And I think in this case it is a particularly striking, no pun intended, because what storytelling so relies on is like human emotion and human feeling, and then like to cut out both that humanity and to leave day players, who are often like how people get into the business. And again, like going back to more marginalized communities who systemically have less opportunity, a way to get into acting is to be a featured extra and to do like day player work, and that opportunity just being taken from them like means that in terms of like when a casting call goes out and people are like, we're specifically looking for like a trans person to fill this role, for example, and then the pool is so much smaller. Like right now, the pool is like, we always tell people like the pool is bigger than you think, you just have to look. And it's true. There's like so many incredible trans actors from like day player level to like Laverne Cox level. But like, if these day players are getting less and less work, then it means that like the pool of actors is going to shrink, and that's going to be less talented people to choose from. And also just like, again, like less work and less food on the table for people who are just trying to make a living, especially in these marginalized communities.
Well, a Star Wars fan could own a piece of movie history, but it's going to cost them quite a few credits. A long-lost model of an X-Wing fighter used in 1977's Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, is up for auction. The starting price? $400,000. The model was used in close-ups during the final battle scene where the Rebel Alliance fought the Empire above the Death Star. Heritage Auction says the model is part of a collection that belonged to the late Greg Jean, an award-nominated miniature maker. He's known for his work on Star Trek and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Well, you can watch the Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. For the Advocate channel today, I'm Rachel Smith. Take care.